Hey everybody, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Sarah Blackstock, and I'm the Marketing Manager for Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. And today's webinar is J.D. Edwards and De Novo, the Dairy Farmer of America Customer Story. Before we get started, I'd like to review a few housekeeping items. This webcast is designed to be interactive between you and the presenters. The console you are looking at can be completely customized. You can move or resize any of the windows that you have open. At the bottom of your audience console, there are multiple application widgets that you can use. We've gone ahead and opened the Q&A widget and the resource widget for your convenience. If at any point during today's webinar you have any questions, please submit them through the Q&A widget and we'll be answering those live. A copy of today's slide deck and a link to an Oracle Cloud Infrastructure free tier program is available to you in the resource widget, and a recording of this presentation will be made available shortly after the live presentation concludes and can be accessed from the same registration link that you used to register for this event. You'll also be receiving a link to the on-demand webinar in email within 24 hours of today's webinar. If at any point you experience audio or screen issues, please refresh your browser. If your issues continue, please confirm that you have Adobe Flash installed and enabled. Again, we're able to support you with any technical issues through the Q&A widget as well. Due to the material that we're going to cover in today's webinar, we request that you take a quick moment and review our safe harbor statement. Again, thank you so much for joining today's webinar, J.D. Edwards and De Novo, the Dairy Farmers of America Customer Story. Today we're joined by Jeff Hurley, the CIO of Dairy Farmers of America, Susan Szymanski, the VP of Senior Solution Architect at De Novo, Sarah Piscatella, the Senior Partner Manager at De Novo, and Vish Patwardhan, the Director of North America Sales, Product Ambassador Applications with the Business Development Group here at Oracle. And again, Jeff, I am thrilled to have you here. I am so excited to hear how Dairy Farmers of America migrated to Oracle Cloud with the help of De Novo and Oracle. And with that, I'll hand it over to you to kick us off.
Thank you, Sarah, and hello, everyone. What I'd first like to do today is give you a little background on Dairy Farmers of America as we get into this presentation. Dairy Farmers of America is the largest supplier of raw milk in the world. We are headquartered in Kansas City, Kansas, and we are a global cooperative owned by dairy farmers across the United States. This is a picture of our headquarters located in Kansas City, Kansas. This building is new to us. We moved in May of 2016, and we are housing approximately 350 of our corporate employees at this location. This is our most popular attraction at the corporate office. This is our milk bar, where we serve regular and chocolate milk in chilled glasses all day during the day when the office is open. So Dairy Farmers at a glance, we have a very diversified product portfolio. We have 91 manufacturing facilities across the U.S., and in 2019 we had almost $16 billion worth of sales. And we are the 6th largest dairy global company. For Dairy Farmers of America, our mission is simple. We deliver value to our family farmer owners as a global dairy cooperative. Our vision, enriching communities and consumers' lives through all the possibilities of dairy. Our company values represent integrity, quality, passion, surrounded by community. Our farmer member owners are diverse. We have farms that milk 20 cows, and we have farms that milk up to 5,000 cows per day. Our family farms span from coast to coast. And as a cooperative, we are owned and governed by family farmer members. So just a little cow trivia, and to make sure everyone's paying attention. Does anyone know, on average, how many gallons of water a cow drinks per day? So on this slide, I'm going to give you a few answers to choose from, and I'm going to pause momentarily to allow you to enter your answers. Okay, I see the answers coming in. Some of you are closer than others, but the correct answer is 50 gallons. The primary focus of our business is to work to secure a market for all of our members' milk. In 2019, DFA marketed 64.1 billion pounds of raw milk. DFA is organized into 7 areas to streamline milk marketing activities and provide regional support to members and customers. 3,400 truckloads of milk move through our supply chain on a daily basis. We deliver milk to more than 400 customer locations on a daily basis. You may recognize some of the customers that we deliver raw milk to. Our DFA manufacturing locations and office locations are located throughout the U.S. Over the years, DFA has grown through strategic investments by acquiring other companies that fit into the product portfolio. And as you can see, in May of 2020, we just completed our largest acquisition of Dean Foods company located in Dallas, Texas. You may also recognize some of DFA's brands and businesses. Providing value, supporting our farmer members is what drives our cooperative. In addition to our manufacturing facilities, DFA also offers services to our farmer member owners. We offer risk management, grazing, insurance, farm supplies, energy, and livestock marketing. We continue to evolve through innovation. This is a picture of the Creamery, a store that we built and is located in Beaver, Utah. We also foster innovation through Ignite, our dairy innovation program, and as I mentioned, the Creamery in Beaver, Utah, and our podcast called Talk Dairy to Me. As you can probably tell from some of the slides that I've shown, being a cooperative and being managed by family farmer owners is very important to us. So that's why this mark matters. So now I'd like to show on this slide how IT interacts and views the businesses as we look across the landscape. We have milk marketing, ingredient solutions, dairy brands, beverage and dairy foods, Stremix, and other joint ventures. The way IT corresponds and relates to the business is basically the way these companies are organized. We have a BRM that supports each of these independent areas, and they are the link between IT and the business. This map represents our commercial network. It shows where our dairy brands, ingredient solutions, beverage and dairy foods, Stremix heritage foods, and all our offices are located throughout the continental U.S. Here are the locations for our beverage and dairy foods divisions, locations of all of our ingredient solution manufacturing facilities, our Stremix and heritage food locations, and our DFA dairy brands locations. Here's a map of where our DFA offices are located. And finally, all of the DFA milk marketing offices. So you can see we have quite a few locations located throughout the continental U.S. I've shown on previous slides one of the divisions that we have at DFA called DFA Dairy Brands. In 2018, as we worked through our IT strategy and roadmap, we came to a crossroads for this particular division within DFA. One of the challenges that we had here is we had old information systems that were acquired through those acquisitions, and we're at a juncture about what we were going to do moving forward. As you look at the map of locations, you can see we acquired several different businesses across the strategic growth plan for DFA. And along with those strategic acquisitions comes a collection of disparate IT systems that at some point we need to address and bring onto one common platform throughout that division within DFA. One of the challenges that we faced with that decision is some of the platforms that we were running on and utilizing in those locations, support became a big concern. The version of the software that we were running on was coming out of support, and they needed to make a decision about how we would come up with a plan and address that concern going forward. The concern I had for support in this area was with the J.D. Edwards World version 9.2.1. Oracle had announced that that was going to go on sustaining support in May of 2018, and one of the challenges that I had or concerns was how we would support that version of the software going forward. The other challenge I faced was as we looked at those acquisitions that came into the portfolio in order to get on a common platform or common system, having an older version of J.D. Edwards World was not something I wanted to deploy to the locations that were coming into the Dairy Brands portfolio. I didn't want to be replacing technology that they had with an older technology that we were having an issue with supporting. So as I looked across the landscape, one of the challenges that I had as I figured out a plan to consolidate those systems was I didn't want to be deploying the old version of J.D. Edwards World, as those locations might have had a newer technology that I would be replacing. As you can see from this list here, we had a pretty robust J.D. Edwards World environment. A lot of these modules were implemented across the Dairy Brands landscape, but we had requests for additional modules to be implemented. And at that time, I didn't want to be implementing, again, old technology, so we had to make a decision about what we would do going forward. So I relate that to getting something that's brand new, but having an old version of it. So nobody wants a brand new 1990 vehicle. One of the other factors that came into the decision around what we were going to do going forward with our application portfolio is what we were going to do with talent and how would we attract and retain talent in today's market. I'm sure everyone's seen these names for the generations, right? The baby boomers, Gen X, Millennial, and Gen Zs. So we had to figure out a way that we would be able to attract and retain the right talent for what was available in the pool that we were looking to fill some of our open positions with. So that pool consisted of Millennials, Gen Zs. For those of you who are familiar with J.D. Edwards World, you know that it's this old green screen application and it doesn't provide many of the feature functionality that a lot of the newer systems have available today. So does anyone know what happens when you sit a Gen Z or a Millennial in front of a green screen application? That's right. This is what happens when you sit a Millennial or a Gen Z in front of a green screen, right? They're looking for the capabilities that they're used to having in today's technology, and it just doesn't exist in this application. So again, in order to be able to attract and retain the right talent, you've got to have a tool set and application portfolio that you're capable of working on. One of the other considerations we gave to our application strategy and roadmap is how could we take advantage of, after collecting all of these companies, putting in some shared services where we could leverage the opportunity to rationalize our systems, our processes, and our labor pool as well. As I previously mentioned, DFA's strategic investments include a lot of acquisition over the previous years. In May of 2020, we just did our largest acquisition, which is Dean Foods, located in Dallas, Texas. Adding this to our portfolio, we added an additional 44 locations, an additional 14,000 employees, and increased our sales number by $8 billion. So as you can imagine, when you have a collection of companies that you acquired through strategic investment, it can create a complex and disparate IT landscape. In order to take advantage of doing consolidation, DFA Dairy Brands opened up a shared services center in Mansfield, Massachusetts. Our plan was to bring as many back office systems that we could to that location so we can gain efficiencies and economy of scale by having back office system processing work done out of one location rather than having it take place in several locations. And again, in order to take real advantage of having shared services, one of the primary drivers was to have a common application system throughout our Dairy Brands landscape. So in addition to some of the IT considerations we had to think about, we looked to some of the business challenges we would face when we came to the thought of putting in a new ERP system. So as many of you may know, right, when you look to put in a new ERP, people like to bring over their baggage from the legacy systems. This is the way I used to do it, or this is the way how I was taught to do it. But nobody really understands why we did that in the first place. So one of the things we thought about when we looked at implementing the new system was we weren't going to carry over any of the baggage from the legacy systems. And in addition, some of those legacy systems were very old, so a lot of the capability that we have in the new system didn't exist then. So as we look to create those new business processes, we wanted to take advantage of all the new feature functionality in the application. In addition, we want to centralize, again, another decentralized environment. As I mentioned, when you grow through acquisition, not only do you get this application portfolio of disparate systems, but you get different data centers. Locations have their own IT environment, so we want to be able to centralize that on an infrastructure that we can manage from a central location. Master data, we wanted to make sure that we could, again, establish a governance process for the new system around master data. We were going to revamp our chart of accounts and, again, do data consolidation so we would have master data funneling through one central point in the organization. Some of the other challenges that we had with the existing platform that we're on, iSeries support hosting costs. We wanted to be able to see if we could come up with a cheaper, better solution for the Dairy Brands Group to have a system that we could run hosted by a third-party company. And as we look to continue our support of corporate acquisition strategy, develop a playbook as the company acquired new locations, we'd have an application portfolio and an infrastructure platform that we could roll those new locations onto. Some of the other considerations we gave to when we were looking at the new ERP strategy and roadmap is why go with Enterprise 9.2 for J.D. Edwards. Again, one of the other things that we looked at is, the history that we had and the information that we had in the current system, how that could be transferred. We wanted to be able to take on additional users as we wanted to roll on those locations for the sites that we acquired. Expanded footprint and significant increase in functionality. As I previously mentioned, we had modules within World that we did not use that the business was asking for. So we wanted to be able to figure out a way how we could increase that functionality and then again put that across the landscape in the Dairy Brands division. Redefining our processes with advanced 9.2 functionality. As I previously mentioned, right, some of the systems that we were looking at were developed quite some time ago, and a lot of the processes that we did were workarounds because we just didn't have that functionality in the software. Planned cost savings over time, right, being able to consolidate some of those disparate systems, get them all onto one centralized platform, have better reporting and KPIs that the management team could run the business with. From an infrastructure perspective, we needed to decide where we want to invest our ERP systems going forward, right? The iSeries, was that a long-term roadmap? Some of the costs and resources associated with that. The Azure environment, which we do host some other of DFA's application in versus Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. The talent and resources that we would have to bring to the company internally versus having that as a service provided by Novo. Which environment would be better to run in, ours versus theirs? And really, did we want to be in the hardware business, right? Did we want to invest our money in hardware or do we want to invest it somewhere else? And finally, one of the things that was a key factor for me is go with what you know has been successful. I have successfully implemented J.D. Edwards E1, ironically, at Dean Foods where I came from. We had a very successful implementation there across the Dean footprint. It was well received by the business. It was cost effective, and it just seemed to make sense for the business since we had some of the information that would be available to transfer from our World version into our E1 version. So for me, the choice was simple. I went with something that I knew would be successful. So once we landed on the choice of J.D. Edwards E1, there were a couple of other things that we needed to factor in for the plan of how we would be successful to get this rolled out across the Dairy Brands landscape. First, we needed an implementation partner, right? I did not have all the resourcing and staffing in order to get this rolled out across the dairy brands landscape. So we knew we would need a third-party implementation partner. So some of the key factors that we looked at is someone we could trust, who could support us, who was cooperating, and could collaborate with us and bring their experiences to the table and give us advice on how we should do this implementation and take advantage of the feature functionality that was available in the E1 version of JD Edwards. So to pick an implementation partner, we actually interviewed 3 different companies. First, for De Novo, the reason why we selected them is one of the factors that came back from all the team members that participated in the interviews. They liked the fact that they listened. They listened to what our business was like, what some of the requirements that we had, and how we would be able to solve some of the challenges that we were looking to solution with JD Edwards E1. They had a great project manager. They interacted well with the team. We felt that it would be a good fit. They did have competitive pricing. And really what stood out is they wanted our business. They knew that they were up against a couple of implementation partners that had some history with us, and they knew that they were the new kid on the block. So Sarah and her team put together great presentations. They had great follow-up, and they knew that they needed to come to the table with something extra in order to win this business. And I'm happy to say that we did select them, and so far we've had a great experience with them. So typically with any big ERP implementation, you have these success criteria. We needed sponsorship. So again, as we mentioned for the DFA dairy brands, they recognized that they needed to settle on one platform for their ERP application, and it made sense to bring all these companies that we acquired through this acquisition onto one mate platform so we could run the business more efficiently and effectively. So right from the top, we had sponsorship from the Chief Operating Officer from the Dairy Brands Division. We knew that we had to have the right internal team. We needed to be able to make sure that we could bring the best and brightest from the business to the project to ensure that we were getting things done the right way for not only for today, but for tomorrow. Next, our external partner, as I mentioned, right, we needed to pick a partner that would be a good fit for the Dairy Brands team going forward. And I'm happy to say we selected De Novo, and they've lived up to all of our hopes so far. Realistic expectations, right? We wanted to make sure that we understood what this implementation would be about, right? The timeline that we would do it with or on, and the expectation from the business about the challenges that we would be solving for them. So again, one of the other things that I would recommend for anybody doing an ERP implementation is to make sure that you have realistic expectations of what this is going to do for the business. And then lastly, scope, timeline, and budget, right? Make sure that you have realistic scope, timeline, and budget set so there are no surprises as you're going through the implementation. So just some other thoughts on success criteria. As I mentioned, right, must have executive buy-in and sponsorship, everyone working towards the same business and transformation goals. So when you do a project like this, it's helpful to make sure as you're rolling this out, the organization understands why you're doing this. It's not just because IT doesn't have anything else to do, but how it's going to change the business and the way the business operates, right? Make sure you work with the process owners, understand what they like and don't like, and take advantage of all the feature functionality that's available in the new application, right? Remember, as I said, don't bring along all your old baggage with you because, again, some of that might have been created because of functionality deficiencies in the software that you were running. When reporting to management, make sure you're setting the expectations that they're expecting you to deliver. And, for your C-level, right, what insights can they provide around an implementation or expectations that they have for what they're going to get out of the system when it's delivered. Also, understand your entire environment, right? It's not just about the ERP application that you selected. There are third-party integrations. There are other features and facets that may need to talk to those systems that are in place that will need to play with the ERP. Number of current users and future plans. Again, one of the things that we needed to factor in is what would the strategic growth plan for DFA look like and how would we make sure that this new ERP application could accommodate that. how much would it cost to maintain? Again, internally versus externally in the platform that you're selecting. Again, hosting something on an iSeries versus putting it in Oracle Cloud infrastructure. Scalability, again, right, all about the acquisition strategy. You need to be able to cost-effectively roll into new division users and solutions. And again, on that, what I would also say is as you're looking to do that, right, when you acquire a business, right, it's not something that you want to leave out there for 12 to 24 months. You want to be able to go to senior management and say, hey, we've got this acquisition. It was just done. We're ready to implement the new system. We're ready to bring the back office's services into our shared services center. And here's how our subject matter experts can help roll out some new efficiencies in things like the plant, cost accounting, and manufacturing. Additionally, I'd recommend don't skimp on training, right? You're making a significant investment here in the feature functionality that you want to use. So make sure you have a good training plan. Set realistic timelines, right? You always have to plan for some of the unexpected and be prepared for the unknown. Testing, right? That's a key component to making sure that the application functions and it can function for the business. Any quick wins that can be realized sooner, you may have a system that's performing with much better speed and giving a better user interface experience to the organization, and then celebrate successes. Well, thank you for listening to that story about DFA and its journey on its ERP implementation. So at this point, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Susan Szymanski.
Thank you, Jeff. I'd just like to take a moment to say it has been a pleasure to work with the DFA team on this project, and we appreciate the confidence that DFA has placed in Novo to work alongside their team on this implementation. In the next couple of slides, I'll be covering the major milestones that we've been progressing on for this project, and then when I am done with that, I'll turn it over to Sarah Piscatello, who will be covering a little bit more about how Novo and DFA have worked together on this project. So what I'd like to show you on these next couple of slides is the major milestones with the Novo implementation methodology that we used on the DFA project. Beginning with our planning stage, where we did the project planning, project management workshop, and technology planning. Also in the planning stage, we did the E1 software implementation on the Oracle Cloud infrastructure. So at the end of the planning stage, we have J.D. Edwards E1 9.2 installed on OCI to support the rest of the project. After the planning stage, we move into the design stage, where we're going to do a security workshop to review and define the security requirements. We're going to do our functional workshops to understand and define the functional requirements, and from those functional workshops, complete our design guides and our solution summaries. We also deliver a user experience workshop where we present all the new user enablement tools that are now available in E1 9.2 to allow the DFA team to do personalizations versus customizations within 9.2. We do our RICE planning workshop, which is where we clearly define and design any validated development requirements. We do the test strategy workshop to make sure that we have the full test script definition in order to enable full integration testing throughout the project. And then in this particular project, we did have the OneView reporting, the OVR training. After the design stage is the build stage, where we're going to configure the software, the E1 9.2 software, as we have defined it in our design stage. And we're actually going to complete all of the J.D. Edwards development, which includes reports, interfaces, conversions, extensions, and forms. Continuing with the build stage is after we've completed the E1 9.2 configuration, we'll do all of the unit testing. We'll do the core project team training, and this is in the applications area to make sure all teams are trained on the 9.2 software. We'll do, of course, the development testing, and then the cutover planning workshop. So that's where we start to define the tasks and requirements in order to complete the cutover for go live. And then the integration test workshop, where we make sure we have the full test scripts and handoffs for a full end-to-end integration testing. The next stage of our methodology is testing. So it's a full Mach 1 and Mach 2 test and a full integration test 1 and 2. So with our Mach 1, we're bringing data into our new OCI environment again, just to enable our end-to-end testing. So we're bringing in a fresh copy of our data to support the first integration testing. We identify issues, resolve the issues, potentially tweak configuration, and then we'll do another full Mach 2 and integration test 2. During this time, we are refining our cutover plan and our cutover project plan so that for go live, when we execute against that plan, we have minimized our risk. At the end of our test stage, we do a formal readiness assessment with team interviews and completion of a go, no-go checklist. The fifth and final stage of our methodology is to go live, actually cut over to production, executing against the same plan that we executed against for Mach 1 and Mach 2, and bring DFA to production 9.2. And then, of course, we will have post-go-live support. I would now like to turn it over to Sarah, where she will continue to define some of the benefits of de novo partnering with DFA.
Thank you, Susan. It absolutely takes partnership, planning, and execution in order to make these projects successful. And de novo has been proud to partner with DFA and also proud to be an Oracle partner. Together with Oracle, we have been able to deliver on the best of these solutions and the best that they have to offer. The best technology, innovation, and we bring with us the strongest teams in order to execute on those industry best practices. De novo is uniquely qualified to empower our customers with the latest innovations and the latest choices that are available thanks to Oracle. Customers today have a choice for a hybrid or an on-premise or a full cloud deployment. They have the choice to leverage mobility, AI, security, and a myriad of other tools that are made available to them. While Oracle continues to invest in technology, de novo continues to invest in our teams in order to deliver on these capabilities. A true digital transformation can be realized by our clients when they leverage the native tools available to them and choose to move and improve with Oracle's cloud infrastructure. Nobody is better versed in sharing Oracle's vision for this software and for these enhancements than Oracle's own Vish Padwarden.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm so excited to co-present with you and Jeff today, and not because I have a chance to talk about technology, but because, like you said, when we combine experience and expertise of de novo teams with Oracle technology together, we can help our joint customers achieve some amazing business outcomes. All the things that Jeff was talking about, be ready for growth, help them be ready to incorporate mergers and acquisitions very quickly, help them focus on their core competencies. And let's talk a little bit about how OCI, or Oracle's infrastructure cloud, enables all of that. And I know the focus today is JD Edwards Enterprise One as an application, but out of the gate, let me just say that this is a platform that is great to run all of your enterprise workloads, not just JD Edwards. And again, before we get into the details of the technology conversation, I hope all of you are doing well and staying safe. We're certainly in some disruptive times. We've all had to adjust very quickly in our personal as well as our professional lives, and we're using a lot of these virtual meeting platforms a lot more, like On24 and Zoom, and there's a number of others as well. All right, let's talk a little bit about Zoom. This is a non-Oracle application that runs on Oracle's infrastructure. And if you look at what they've had to contend with in the past couple of months, they used to have an average of 10 million daily participants. Today, they have over 300 million daily participants. Everybody's using Zoom these days. K through 12 institutions, universities, certainly there's a lot more expanded corporate use on Zoom as well. And as a result, they've had to scale out very, very quickly. They used to run on AWS. They looked at and evaluated AWS for the scale out. They looked at Azure, a couple of the other cloud vendors as well. And they eventually chose Oracle because of its industry-leading security, outstanding performance, and unmatched level of support. That's the quote there from Eric, who's the CEO of Zoom. And it's not just about Zoom. If you look at a lot of the other types of workloads that are running on OCI, if you're using any package delivery vendors, guys like FedExes and UPSs of the world, if you're conducting any banking transactions, God forbid you've had to use a pharmacy for you or your loved ones. If you're home and have more time and doing a lot more real-time streaming, if you're using any products from security related vendors like McAfee, if you are part of any member loyalty programs and are conducting any transactions, or even COVID-related research and activity, a lot of that is happening on Oracle's infrastructure cloud. So the net is that OCI may be an integral part of a lot of what you do already. And so the question is, if it's good enough for thousands of these most stringent, mission-critical, high-scale workloads, why not you? Like I said, it's an enterprise-grade platform for certainly Oracle applications, but any other enterprise workload as well. And if it runs these non-Oracle cloud-native applications so well, imagine how well it would run Oracle's own applications, where these application development teams, J.D. Edwards' development team, as an example, have had an opportunity to build out OCI-specific features and automation to make the overall lifecycle management of these applications even better. All right, I just talked about Zoom having to evaluate cloud vendors, and this is something that all customers have to decide and choose. And when I've talked to customers as they decide to move these workloads to the cloud, what I've found is that there are typically about 6 considerations that are top of mind for customers. They want to make sure that the cloud vendor pricing is reasonable. They want to make sure that these workloads will perform well and consistently in the cloud. They want to make sure that there's robust security around these workloads. They want to make sure that these cloud services are easy to consume and backed by service level agreements. And lastly, underneath all of this is a robust cloud architecture. And so what I thought I'd do is in the next few minutes talk to you about Oracle's infrastructure cloud in the context of these 6 considerations. So let's talk a little bit about price. So if you look at Oracle cloud pricing, you'll find that it is cheaper than all of the other major infrastructure cloud providers or vendors out there, and in some cases, it's significantly cheaper. So you'll find that variance to be anywhere from 4% to almost 8,000% cheaper. And the other thing that's probably worth taking note of is the fact that Oracle has consistent pricing worldwide, whereas with other cloud vendors, that pricing could vary based on where in the world or which region you want to deploy that service to. In terms of performance, you'll find that there are a number of independent third-party comparisons of infrastructure cloud performance from folks like Storage Review, Gartner, Accenture, et cetera, that have compared Oracle's infrastructure offerings against some of the other cloud vendors that are out there. And I found that Oracle performs much better in many cases, and certainly better across the board. And it's not just for Oracle workloads like Oracle databases, but even non-Oracle workloads like Microsoft SQL Server, VDI, mixed workloads. There's another comparison on your slide there that shows that compared to Amazon, Oracle offers more compute memory as well as block storage for similar shapes. Let's talk a little bit about security. OCI is built from the ground up to be highly secure. Security is not an afterthought. It's woven into every aspect of the cloud. We have what we call a no trust posture, and what that means is that we don't trust customer tenancies, and we expect customers to not trust Oracle Cloud either. And that's exactly the kind of posture you want with your cloud provider. So the way it sort of manifests itself, there's a couple of features I'll touch on. There's this notion of off-box virtualization. And what that means is that the Oracle control code or control plane sits totally separately compared to customer tenancies and workloads. And it does a few things. Number one, it means we don't have access to your memory. We cannot peek into your data, which is important for a lot of our customers in a lot of industries like retail and frankly any other industry. And it also does a couple of additional things, which is in terms of the ability for any malware attack to spread, because Oracle's control code is separate with hardened boundaries around it, it's much harder for a malware attack to spread to Oracle control code and then to other tenancies, which is an important consideration. We also have offers or capabilities like DataSafe, which allows customers to do things like configuration assessment, user risk assessment, sensitive data discovery, data masking, etc., which is only available on Oracle and not some of the other cloud vendors that are out there. We also encrypt everything end to end. We don't just give you the option of encrypting, and God forbid there's a user error, that could lead to some devastating consequences. We encrypt everything end to end, everything at rest and in motion as well. We do secure host wipes from a hardware root of trust. We allow you to do vulnerability testing. So like I said, it is a big consideration for us and our customers. In terms of consumption, what we hear our customers say is that we want all of these cloud services to be easy to consume and flexible. We know our usage patterns are going to change, so the way we allow our customers to navigate all of that is, of course, we have a pay-as-you-go option, so you simply pay for the services you use, and we have a monthly flex option with what we call UCCs or Universal Cloud Credits, which allow you to have a pool of funds that you can use flexibly. And what that means is that it's one simple contract. You have access to every single cloud service that is available today and any service that Oracle makes available in the future as well. So you simply start consuming services and draw down against that pool of funds. And if you want to start consuming a different service, well, you already have access to that service. You simply shut down the service you do not want to use or may continue to use, and simply add other services that you want to use on a go-forward basis. And OCI has much broader set of SLA coverages as well, or service level agreements. So we not only have availability coverage compared to or similar to other cloud vendors that are out there, which guarantees that your resources will be available to you, but we back that up with performance and manageability SLAs as well, which are not covered by any of the other cloud vendors. So we'll guarantee the performance of those resources, and we'll guarantee your ability to manage those resources. So your ability to scale those resources up or down on an as-needed basis. And if there are SLA violations, we'll give you service credits for any performance or manageability SLA violations as well. So the reason Oracle's able to offer better price, better performance, higher security, better set of SLAs or service level agreements is because fundamentally underneath all of this is a second generation of cloud that is architected in a much different and a better way than some of the first generation clouds that have been out there for a number of years, which certainly brought a lot of great capabilities and a new way of thinking about computing, things like resource elasticity, being able to pay for only what you use, high scalability, but then Oracle's been able to take all of that and pair that up with superior performance, superior economics, etc., and an architecture underneath all of this that supports it all. So things like a flat non-blocking network. So the fact that it is flat means that you can go from any node in the data center to any other port or node very, very quickly. The fact that it's non-blocking means that you don't have a noisy neighbor issue. So if you have a tenancy sitting right next to you that is, let's say, chatty and putting a lot of traffic out on the network, generally speaking, your performance is going to be impacted because of network oversubscription. Oracle doesn't do it that way. Our network is non-blocking, so what your tenancy next to you is doing will never impact your performance. And of course, all of this is running on the highest, most dense infrastructure. You have access to all of the database options, including all the way up to Exadata Cloud Service, RAC, bare metal. Certainly a lot of these database options are not available in any other cloud, and even things like bare metal options, which are not available in some of the other clouds as well. And all of this is available across 23 regions globally that are live today, with 13 more that are planned to go live before the end of this calendar year, so end of 2020. So very aggressive growth targets. We're opening new regions every few weeks. Some of these regions also have an interconnect with Microsoft Azure. So for those of you that want to take advantage of hybrid computing across multiple cloud vendors, you have the option of doing that as well. There's integrated security between Microsoft Azure and OCI as well. Okay, so if you want to get started, you can start with the free tier, which will give you access to a couple of autonomous databases, 2 VMs. You'll have access to block, object, and archive storage as well. I think it gives you access to one load balancer. And those resources are available to you permanently. They're always free to you. Beyond that, there's also a $300 trial, which will last a month, and that gives you access to a much broader set of cloud services and resources as well. But like I said, it's for $300 and available for 1 month. If you're not using any of those resources, certainly make sure you're shutting those down. That will give you a maximum level of benefit in terms of those $300, and that rate card is has a lower burn rate as well. So the $300 will actually get you a lot more in cloud credits than you might think otherwise. Beyond that, reach out to de Novo if you have any questions, or feel free to reach out to your Oracle Technology Cloud sales representative as well. They'd be happy to sit down with you and help you with any of your use cases, etc. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Sarah. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Vish, and thanks again, everybody, for being part of today's webinar. We hope you enjoyed it. We're going to wrap up a few of the questions in the text questions that are coming in. If you have any outstanding questions, please stay on with us. For everyone else, we appreciate your time today, and we look forward to seeing you on future webinars.